This is scary. I recently came across a study that said that 77% of Americans ages 17 to 24 are ineligible for military service due to obesity, substance abuse, or various medical conditions. Keep in mind that this number does not include any legal disqualifications. So, out of those 23% that are actually eligible, recruiters have to find the ones that actually want to do it and are legally qualified to do it. That's not just scary, that's dangerous. So, a good question is, who is at fault here? I have my own personal opinions. What's yours?
All right, Shalom. Give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bashem Yahweh Shai, Bashem HaKakwadash, double honors to the apostles, and others, a great millstone. Shalom to the hopefully elect. All right, so you just seen that video. All right, and you could see clearly America is through. This is Babylon the Great, also known as Sodom and Egypt, which he pretty much went into some of that. You know, this place being Sodom and Egypt. Um, because what is this? Uh, what was he pretty much talking about? He said 77%. Basically, only 23% is what he said of people are eligible due to what? Drug abuse, substance abuse, some sort of mental illness. All right, because in drug addiction, first and foremost, like all these different things are demons, but these demons, they cause actual physical changes in your body. All right. And it becomes a mental illness. All right. So, real quick, let me just say, the name of the Most High is Yahweh. All right. That's the true name in the ancient Hebrew. All right. Is Yahweh, and his son's name, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, is Yahweh Shai. All right. Who died for the sins of the elect, that we may have grace through faith and belief in those names and in the truth. All right, which the truth, the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding is Yahweh Shai. All right, this is bringing us to life in these last days. All right, being able to see, all right, through the scriptures, through the Holy Spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, man. The things that are taking place in these last days. All right, the last days of this present world, man, in which the world to come, all right, is going to be a righteous kingdom. So going back to that video, 23%, he says 77% of people between the certain ages, which is you could say military aged people, all right, are they have some sort of ailment. They all have some sort of ailment that makes them ineligible for combat. All right. And all these nations, they see that America is through. All right. That's why they have you people, all right, totally strung out on all different types of madness out here. All right. People are, drunk off of this wine of Babylon. All right. And pretty soon the Lord is going to snap you people out of this trance that you're in. All right. I'll go come back to that real quick. Let me go to Daniel 12 and 1. So this is Daniel 12 and 1. It says, "And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people." All right, because the angels, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, you got the angels. The angels are going to, protect the elect, man. All right. Um, Let me see. Yeah. Psalms 34. It says, the angel of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai encampeth round about them that fear him, and delivereth them. O taste and see that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai is good. Blessed is the man that trusteth in him. Oh, fear the Lord, ye his saints. All right, his saints are the Israelites, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. All right, and the scattered Israelites among all, different kindreds, nations, and tongues that, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai calls to remembrance, because this ministry is a call to remembrance. All right, and it's a call to grace. All right, mercy. And ultimately salvation. All right, but it does come with waking up to the fact that you're behind enemy lines. You're in a predicament here. All right, the devil, is getting ready to come down, having great wrath. All right, all these people out here got demons on them. They're all, the heathen are your enemies. You got it's a dire, straight situation, man. All right. You are behind enemy lines. You wake up, it says, he that departeth from evil maketh himself a prey. So you got to move a certain way in this society. All right. Because if you wake up, you know, and you kind of, you have the possibility, if you're not careful and not taught correctly, to endanger yourself and harm yourself. All right. That's why it talks about, not being over righteous and not being over wicked. All right. There's a balance. So Psalms 34:7, the angel of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai campeth round about them that fear him and delivereth them. And the fear of the Lord is a gift. All right. When you wake up, and you have that fear, all right, that's actually good for you. It keeps you in check. You want that fear. All right. Because where the fear of the Lord is, it driveth away sins. All right. Keep you on the straight path. Keep you rooted in this thing, man. Keep you, all right, hungry for knowledge, wisdom, understanding, for serving the Lord, calling upon his name, doing your best to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. Okay. So that's what the fear of the Lord does for you. All right. And through that, you're going to grow faith. All right. Your belief and your faith is going to grow through your fear. All right. You're going to understand. You're going to be like, hey, man, I fear the Lord. All right. So the angels are around me. All right. And your understanding will grow. All right. You'll grow. All right. It says, verse 8, oh, taste and see that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai is good. Blessed is the man that trusteth in him. And so you got to really trust in the Lord, man, because we're in a predicament, a conundrum. All right. A dire situation where we need to be delivered from, ultimately, at the end of the day. All right. Which that deliverance is going to come by the chariots. All right. Because, this devil, and really, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai is using the left hand, all right, to bring about trials and tribulations and tests that are going to come, and that we deal with, to put our faith to the test, to see if we'll continue in that faith and in that belief. All right. It talks about being faithful unto death. All right. Because hard times, very hard times, are on the way. All right. It says, oh, fear Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, ye his saints. All right. You so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, the true Hebrew Israelites, man. All right. You are the saints. All right. And those are you that are called out of the nations to remembrance. All right. Meaning that you're going to hear this word and you're going to believe it. All right. It's going to hit you, like a ton of bricks, man. You're gonna be like, oh man, this is the truth. All right. The Lord is going to sup with you and grow your understanding. You're gonna know. All right. You're gonna know that this is the truth. You're gonna see your teachers. All right. It says, for there is no want to them that fear him. All right. The young lions do lack and suffer hunger, but they that seek Yahweh by Shem Yahushai shall not want any good thing. All right. The young lions do lack and suffer hunger. All right. So these people out here, even the mighty men, even those, you know, it tells you in the scriptures, man, that the man, Satan is coming. Shit. Salaki. The Lord is going to humble these mighty men, the young lions. All right. These people out here, they're gonna suffer hunger, they're gonna suffer reproach, they're gonna suffer anguish, terrors, tribulation, trouble, anguish. All right. It says, they that seek Yahweh by Shem Yahushai shall not want any good thing. All right. So pretty much the Lord is going to preserve and protect the elect. All right. Which that's what it's all about. All right. Making your calling and election sure by giving diligence. All right. By, doing the things that the scriptures speak of you to do. All right. Which is walking in the spirit. All right. Having faith. Believe in Yahweh by Shem Yahushai, man. Okay. Let's go back now to Daniel 12:1. It says, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book. So we're hoping to be found written in the book. All right, and it talks about everyone that shall be delivered by their faith and by their works. All right, which faith is a work. All right, you gotta remember that too. And your faith grows so as your faith grows, your works grow. So it says, and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. Okay, so pretty soon, the Lord is going to snap everyone out of this trance. All right, because these people are in a trance out here, and you have, even regular people that are waking up and are bugging out. All right, they're starting to see what's coming, and they're prepping and trying to fight against it, but you can't fight against it. The only way out of this thing is through. All right, and it's gonna be through faith in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, man. Because ultimately, this devil is gonna come to make you bow down to not to try to make you bow down to his system, which that's the whole that's the whole purpose and point of what he's trying to accomplish here. Ultimately, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai using this guy on the left hand to bring about the hour of temptation, which it says in the scripture is going to come upon all the world to try them that dwell on the earth. All right, this digital system, which this devil's going to seduce many, many, many people with these miracles, and ultimately, these different tribulations and cataclysms that are going to come upon the earth, to where, he's going to bring about this, he's going to speak as a dragon, all right, and clamp down with his teeth and cause as though many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed, as it tells you in Revelation, the 13th chapter. All right. So going back over here to what I was talking about earlier, Revelation 18:2, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. All right. And that's why this place is destroyed, man. All right. Because these people have been tricked into a trance. All right. Everybody's in this false reality and they're all bugged out in it. They all got all the, Esau through his witchcraft has pushed, a doctrine of Satanism throughout the world, especially, it comes out of America. It comes out of Babylon, you know, and, through that wine, the people have been destroyed. All right. Everything's all jacked up here. And that's all part of, that's part of this place falling and being destroyed, man, is moral decay, division, which it talks about. Yahweh Shai came to bring a sword, man, and division. And that's what you have, here in Babylon is division on all levels. All right. You have houses divided against itself. It tells you that a man's foes shall be they of their own house. All right. And hey, you see that play out. All right. You see that play out. So Revelation 18:4 it says, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and Yahweh Bashem Yahushai have remembered her iniquities. All right. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her according to her works, and the cup which she had filled to her double. Right. Because through this, place, we have lost our identity, lost our who we are. All right. Been force fed all kind of bullshit, been lied to, all right, deceived, tricked, robbed, all right, pursued with the sword. This devil has done a major number on us. Ultimately, of course, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai put us through this as a punishment. It's part of the curses, you know. But he, this devil is guilty of all of these things. All right. So, we're waking up to all this madness. We're like, dang, man. This guy's the devil. This guy's push nothing but madness throughout the earth, man. All right, all these nations have become mad. They're all bugged out, and ultimately the Lord is going to punish the nations. All right, and we're hoping to be covered by the blood of Yahweh Shai. All right, to cover our sins. All right, through faith and belief. All right, and the rest of the Israelites. All right, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, and Israelite foreigners that reject this word, reject this grace and this mercy. All right, your sins are not going to be covered, man. All right, because while Yahweh Bashem Yahushai called and said, "Hey, look, just trust in me, just believe in me." All right, You said no. You want to trust in something else. You want to put your faith and belief in something else. All right. Which ultimately is going to be your destruction and your downfall. All right. But they of the hopeful elect, all right, of the household of faith, those that believe, have hope. Have hope and mercy, man. And hope maketh not ashamed. All right. But as you see, man, they're gonna have to bring about a draft. And that draft ain't gonna do nothing but, send a whole bunch of, fucked up, mentally ill, physically ill people to a war that is unwinnable, a suicide mission, basically. All right. You're gonna be sent out there just to be annihilated. All right. And then, ultimately you're gonna have the nuclear missiles, the Lord's gonna come back in the chariots. All right. And yeah, it's gonna be a lot of scary stuff coming, a lot of terrifying things. All right. And all we can do is hope that we're good, that we're, under that protection. All right. So with that, hopefully it's edifying. We give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Hakakodash. Double honor to the apostles, knows a great millstone. Shalom to hopefully elect.